Hi, you're welcome to the sports segment here on AM Show. My name is Benedict. So always a pleasure joining you. A lot of reactions have come in following CAF's decision to give the hosting rights of this year's Africa Cup of Nations to Egypt. Well, that's happening in Egypt in June, and yesterday was after voting which happened in Senegal, Dakar, the Confederation of African Football Executive Committee, and it was a landslide victory for that's Egypt as they beat South Africa to that. Lots of reactions have come through. First, we hear from Dr. Kofi Amoah, who is Normalization Committee Chairman.
Yes, this is a very exciting times for Ghana football. The president of the land wants us to win AFCON 2019 by any means necessary. And I believe him. He's sitting up in meetings. He's telling his people, I want you to do this, to do that. And he's met with the captain of the Black Stars, the coach, you know. So when the head of a nation says, I want ABC to happen, and the critical ingredients that to use to do the ABC are there, it is up to us to sharpen our organization skills, to put the people together, to do what we can to motivate them, to make sure that the schedule and program with which we are going to win the AFCON is clear, and that everybody understands their responsibilities and everybody does what they're supposed to do. I'm very hopeful that with the support of the president and the enthusiasm of Ghanaians to see a cup again, I think we will do well.
The coach's contract. All right, so that was Dr. Kofi Amoah. We can now hear from Fred Papo, who was a former Ghana Football Association Vice President.
I think generally I'll say it's an attractive package, and one must commend the Normalization Committee for their efforts in trying to put the competition together in many ways. We understood from what they said that it was quite difficult, but then they've done very well. The modalities are generally okay, set up within a framework of very clear objectives, but then there were one or two areas that the generality of members felt they could make some changes around, and they've agreed to that. So they'll go back and refine or find.
All right, so Fred Papo was rather talking about yesterday's meeting that the Normalization Committee had with the clubs over the special competition, which we'll talk about later here in the program. But we still have to talk about the Confederation of African Football, because yesterday it wasn't just the announcement of Egypt as a AFCON host. Also, the Africa Cup, the awards night was held in Egypt. That's African Player of the Year for the male and female and other awards. Well, my colleague Gary Smith was at the event and is still in Senegal, Dakar, and joins me via Skype. Gary, thanks so much for joining me. If you can hear me, very good morning to you there. And yesterday on social media, you realized that CAF received a lot of plaudits for the organization of the awards. How were they able to pull it off?
My eighth African Footballer of the Year award in the shortest. It's also been the best because it's our very simple. There are too many speeches that are too out for my but I keep it simple. That's what they do, and that's what they are getting. It was also professionally done.
It was professionally done indeed. And in terms of the award winners, I'm sure it didn't come as a surprise to you that Mohamed Salah won, as well as Christine Tembi-Katlana, following her impressive showing at last year's African Women's Championship here in Ghana.
No, I don't think it was Mohamed Salah. Was of sentimental people from his countrymen and women, but to even knew that they felt that in the year that we would continue plan. It was always because actually contested she was buying accolades with Shoala and put Nigeria and then some put also from Nigeria. I think I'd like to go to I think that she went with 2 accolades. This one and go women.
And generally, it was a good awards night. And finally, before Gary, I take leave of you, I think one award that didn't go down well with me was the Coach of the Year, which went to Hervé Renard. I don't know what you also think.
Well, the question I have is why a good simply in a World Cup year, if you are a coach, much like usually the winner of the championship, the company who wins the world head and shoulders about aspect the way you do. Not you do also when chapa, it was always good to hear.
All right, Guy, thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Definitely we'll speak to you probably maybe on Sports Today before you come to Ghana. So that was my colleague Gary Osman. Yesterday he was at the awards event which happened in Dakar, Senegal. We quickly have to go through a lot more of the awards that were given. We've talked about Hervé Renard winning the Coach of the Year. Women's Coach of the Year went to South Africa coach Desiree Ellis. Remember, she led South Africa to the finals of last year's African Women's Championship. Unfortunately, they lost to Nigeria, and Christine Tembi Katlana won the Women's African Player of the Year, and Youth Player of the Year went to Ashraf Hakimi. Well, so aside that, the Africa Best 11 also was revealed yesterday at the awards night. I mentioned Desiree Ellis, and so the Africa Best 11 on your screen, that's Dennis Oyango, goalkeeper, defenders Oreo, who plays club football for Tottenham Hotspur, is from Ivory Coast. Benatia plays club football for Juventus. Eric Bailly is with Manchester United. Kalidou Koulibaly with Napoli, and then Naby Keita with Liverpool. Thomas Partey, our own Thomas Partey, is in the list with Riyad Mahrez, currently with Manchester City, and then Mohamed Salah, of course, he won the African Player of the Year second time in a row, and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang with Arsenal, as well as Sadio Mane. Well, away from the CAF Awards, the Ghana Football Association Normalization Committee met representatives of Premier and Division 1 clubs at the Ghana Football Association Secretariat yesterday to look at the format and modalities of the special competition, which is set to start this month. Normalization Committee Chairman Dr. Kofi Amoah spoke about the benefits of having this competition.
Well, I would say 95%, yes. I think they have been. You see, I also told them that this is not perfect conditions. We are still on the road to perfection. And until we get there, any tournament that we put in place is going to have some areas that people will contend with. So they understand that, you know. The issue of cleansing up our refereeing community has not been finalized. We still have issues with pitches that are not really good to play on. We have issues with match attendances, issues with sponsorship. So yes, we hope that the restart of football will try to test some of the solutions that we think we can use to solve the problems facing Ghana football, and that through this, we will get to a point where we'll get to perfection.
Generally speaking. All right, so that was Dr. Kofi Amoah. He's chairman of the GFA Normalization Committee. Now, the modality set, also yesterday you confirmed that government has released an amount of $800,000 for this very competition. Well, some clubmen reacted to the new competition. We can hear from Randy Abbey of Heart of Lions.
If you look at how unanimous the approval of the clubs were with respect to this proposal and the kind of contributions made, I mean, it's pretty obvious that we just can't wait to start filling that void.
In terms of the modalities and the financial package for the clubs, were you okay with it?
Well, I think that it's, you know, if you look at where we've come from, I mean, I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, although we also made some suggestions with respect to areas where we believe that we can have some improvements, and thankfully the committee has also indicated that they're going to look at them and get back to us with respect to those reviews. But I think that largely, I mean, it was very good, very positive.
All right, so that was Randy Abbey. Accra Great Olympics board member Fred Papo also spoke to us after the meeting.
I think generally I'll say it's an attractive package, and one must commend the normalization committee for their efforts in trying to put the competition together in many ways. We understood from what they said that it was quite difficult, but then they've done very well. The modalities are generally okay, set up within a framework of very clear objectives, but then there were one or two areas that the generality of members felt they could make some changes around, and they've agreed to that. So they'll go back and refine or fine-tune a few areas, but generally I think members, almost everybody was in full agreement.
All right, so that's Fred Papo speaking there. Definitely will bring you more in terms of reactions of what happened yesterday after the meeting with the clubs at the Ghana Football Association Secretariat. Well, yesterday one game was played in England. It was the first leg semi-final of the Carabao Cup in between Chelsea and Tottenham Hotspur. Hotspur won that game by a goal to nil. Remember, there's a second leg to come, and then tonight it's the turn of Manchester City and Burton Albion. City also will play. That's the second semi-final, first leg, and definitely will bring you highlights of that as well as preview to the Manchester City Burton game when you join us at 2 on Sports Today. Thanks so much for your company. Enjoy the rest of the program after this short break.